Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We hope you're keeping very, very safe and well. Thank you so much for joining us for instant reaction to Spurs' 0-0 draw with Eintracht Frankfurt. What an anticlimax. What an anticlimax. Apologies first for being slightly late. Some tech issues, Wi-Fi and mic going in all one night. Like Spurs, just can't get the bloody thing going at the moment. Thank you so much for joining us. We're joined by three great returning guests to Last Word on Spurs as we'll be dissecting. I don't know, it won't be a full 90 minutes on the back of what we've just had to witness, but generally, thoughts on Spurs at the moment in terms of Conte and, of course, how Spurs are lining up tactically and, of course, looking ahead to Brighton to come for Tottenham on Saturday. Joining us back on the show, his first Champions League show in over 4 years. You can see the beaming smile from him on the top right. It means Lee McQueen is back. Lee, want to welcome back for a Champions League show?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me back on, of course. I was pleased up until probably their 18-yard box. And then it was, a case of woeful finishing and woeful final ball and final passes. But I think on the whole tonight, I think we played really well, pressing in areas that wasn't even present at all on Saturday. And winning the ball back in areas for us to go into an attack, some individual decent performances. But ultimately, nice one.
Could have been more goals, Louis. I tell you tonight with those front three, I tell you, Maka, Crackers, and Vass up front, we might have got more goals.
Yeah, certainly not with me up there for sure. But look, no, I think on the whole, when you look at this back, you'll probably think that it will be a good result. You win your home games, you draw maybe one or two away in the Champions League. You're through in the round of 16. The group is wide open. I think Marseille's done both Frankfurt and Spurs a favour today by beating Sporting and comprehensively as well. So from our perspective, we're in a decent place, I think, in the group.
What I loved about that, Lee, is when you were talking, Vass was stroking his beard like Nuno, so much that we lost Vass because he was doing too much of a Nuno impression. So we are going to have to try and bring Vass back, who's morphed into Nuno in the past 5 minutes, as Lee was reflecting there on Spurs' 0-0 draw with Eintracht Frankfurt, bringing us around, of course, to Mr. Cracknell. I think, Crackers, you predicted a 0-0 draw, didn't you, on a Saturday? So well done to you. Yep. If there's a winner tonight, well done to you, mate.
Thanks very much. You're going to pay me winnings, Rick. Lovely. Thank you.
I think we've had to pay each other those winnings, having to watch that back for 90 minutes back, haven't we? God.
I think I had that with you at 12-1, didn't I? I'm sure I had a tenner on that. So
and the rest.
Evening, everyone, and listeners and viewers. It's a strange old place to be with Spurs at the moment. It's there's sort of it's almost like the Brexit vote, isn't it? It's the 48-52% at the moment. There's those people going, it could have been more than that and should have been more than that, and that's not good enough because we could have put that to bed. And then there's those that, and I get that. And then there's those that are saying, well, off the back of Saturday, because that could have been really confidence sapping, and going away in the Champions League and going to somewhere really tough like Germany, getting a 0-0 with a decent performance, albeit with like no shooting boots on, that's not bad either, given the other result. And I get that. So it's like we are literally just straight down the middle at the moment, with neither camp being right, neither camp being wrong. We just sit like this at the moment, and we're just a little bit seesaw on the edge of going one way or the other. But ultimately, I don't think anything's too badly wrong with Spurs. We're just some tweaks away and a bit of confidence away. So don't get too down when it don't go your way, and don't go too mad and say we're winning the Champions League when it does go your way.
Vass's connection, almost like Spurs' front three tonight, impossible to predict, but likely to foul on you as we lose him again there. We'll try and bring Vass back. I mean, you can't make it up. It really is like Spurs' front three this evening. Just before we do get into the show, a reminder, if you do need one at the moment, that, of course, we are absolutely delighted to be sponsored by the Beavertown Corner Pin. That is the Beavertown bang opposite your south stand. We had our first live show. It is bang opposite your south stand, right opposite the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. No need to remind you guys that we had our first live show there over the course of the weekend. I mean, again, it wasn't the game we all wanted to, I'm sure, review that of defeat to Arsenal, but we hope that's going to be one of many live shows we're going to be bringing you from the pin itself and inside the stadium. So I think the message at the moment is keep your eyes peeled, watch this space. Lots more shows to come your way. And we're hoping, fingers crossed, to be bringing you a Christmas special as well. Let's hope Spurs' form picks up between now and then. But if you can book your tickets right now for Spurs' next available game, the home win away, which will be Brighton this coming weekend, by going to beavertownbrewery.co.uk/pages/corner-pin. And again, thank you so much. I know it's late. To these boys, thanks so much for joining us. To our audience, thank you so much for joining us. You're pouring in, as you like to say, catch the late, post-match analysis from BT Sport, and you come over here to the extended edition of it all. And we're going to, like I say, cover all elements of that game as best as we can, despite it being a 0-0. We are going to bring Vass back. We've had the Nuno impression. And we've also had him stroking his beard for a good couple of minutes, along with losing him on a 4-3-3. So who says you can't predict Conte's formation these days? Lee, let's start with you. Look, a point for Tottenham as it finishes 0-0 in Frankfurt. Certainly chances to win the game. I think definitely there would have been, coming on the back of that, you would have felt infuriating that we could have probably won that game several times over. But there's no doubt about it, a much more improved performance from that dismal display in the North London derby. Lots more intensity, couple of real close chances, and unlike Sporting, we didn't throw the game away. So overall, Lee, thoughts on that performance in general?
Well, yeah, like I say, to come away from any away tie in Europe, especially in the Champions League, the top table, Tuesday, Wednesday nights, right, when you're playing Tuesday or Wednesday nights, to come away with a draw in the atmosphere and, the circumstance that we've come into, I think it's a good point. Like, to be fair, let's put some balance on it. I think it's a good point. We've done some really good stuff defensively, blocks and clearances, because they had chances as well. Let's have it right. They absolutely had chances as well. And their finishing was also woeful. It was probably as bad as ours, to be honest. That's why it became quite an even game. But for everybody that's, craving possession, well, we've got our possession tonight. There's your possession. There's your control. But we only had 2 shots on target. And I know the shots on target piece is, a little bit of a dampener on the basis that, we had loads of chances. Let's be honest about it. When we got up to the 18-yard box, I was saying just off air in agreement when we were chatting, when you had your technical issues, it wasn't just Kane and Son and Richarlison that was off. It was Emerson Royale, and it was the ball, from Sessegnon when he come on, Perisic. Like, Perisic didn't put one decent ball in my opinion. But you've also got to give some credit to Frankfurt, because they defended also really well and resolutely. They played a 3 at the back as well. So, I think on balance and all in, I think we'll look back at it. I think I said this at the beginning. We'll look back on that and we will go, that was a decent point away from home. Win your home games. Now, obviously, if we go into the home game next week against Frankfurt and play abysmal and lose, and it will be a bad point away. But ultimately, you've got to put it in the context of the group's wide open. And I'm still very confident that we'll go and top the group. I also just quickly want to say, before I know we've got to bring Vass in, obviously he's back with us now, but everyone's on this sort of downer at the moment, and it's doing my nutting, like absolutely doing my nutting. We've lost 2 games this season. That's it. 2. We've lost 2 games. People can come at me and they can butt and they can this and they can that. They can tell me I'm doubling down and they can say whatever stuff that goes on social media. But the fact of the matter is, factual information is only 2 games ago we scored 6. We scored 6 goals only 2 games ago. Do you know what I mean? Like, and we've got 3 away games on the trot. We got properly done on Saturday, and that's hurting most people, if not all Spurs fans, of course, right? That's hurting us, and we didn't deserve anything from that game. I think our approach today was exactly what we needed to do in terms of approach. And on a different day, if we had our shooting boots on today, we could have ended up scoring 4-5. So I just think that, we need to have some balance on there. And as Crack, as you said at the beginning of the show, right? There's some people that are here and there's some people that are there. The reality is it's somewhere in the middle. I think the frustration, certainly with me, I can't, predict anyone else's opinions, but my frustration with Spurs at the moment is I can't put my finger on why we're not playing as well as what we did towards the end of last season. Is it Perisic and Son can't play together? Because every time they're on the pitch together, they haven't made assists or scored. Like every single time. Here's a blue book one. Is it because Richarlison's in? Is it because we're missing Decky? Is it all of the above? Like, we didn't have a Lucas to come on tonight. And I know people say, "Oh, Lucas loves the Champions League," and also for him to come on. I mean,
he does create havoc, doesn't he? No matter what you say about Lucas, I know he can frustrate the life out of you because his head he runs downwards, but he does frustrate the opposition. He does create chances, right?
Yeah. So I just think all in all, from a summary perspective, to kick off, I think that we're definitely not perfect. Someone just said that we're definitely not City. We're definitely not City or Haaland, right? And actually, on another day, we could have, like I say, scored 3 or 4 today quite easily. But there's something not quite right, and I can't put my finger on it. I think that's what the frustration is with the fan base at the moment.
Yeah, listen, we are going to bring you, of course, live, obviously, post-match reaction from Antonio Conte, who is actually currently talking in his post-match press conference to the press, and he opens up by saying this was a good performance from the start. We put a lot of pressure and we were aggressive in every zone. At the same time, we didn't risk a lot. We created chances because I have to find a situation to improve, and then we have to be more clinical. We went on to say in football, you have to score. I think for the big effort for the whole team, maybe we deserved much more. He then went on to say, I think we have to now say we have to take steps and have patience. If you compare Champions League with Europa League or Conference League, it's completely different. You have to play your strongest 11 and make it difficult to make more changes. He then finally went on to say, we have to become more stronger as a squad. If we have the ambition and intention to play for these 2 big competitions, Premier League and Champions League, you lost a lot of energy and players to injury. You need a really, really big squad. Now, it's interesting he says that about needing a big squad because there's been that argument so far. We haven't really seen the squad. We haven't obviously seen Basuma get many minutes. Jed Spence obviously hasn't featured on a regular basis. Conte still seems to be very reluctant to pick outside 11 or 12 of the players that guaranteed Champions League football last season. So, Vass, to come over to you, Spurs, if we're being honest, still yet to hit the heights of last season, which of course got us into Champions League in the first place. Tonight, I think we had a total, and I will bring it up here for our live viewing audience, a total of 56 possession. We know Bentancur covered the most distance, which was 12.33 kilometres. But overall, Vass, I mean, for me personally, it does feel like another missed opportunity. Similarly to the North London derby, there was a real lack of quality in that final third. And this time, there were much more clear chances, which credit to Tottenham. I think you have to say tonight, we did see a bit more of a progressive play of football from Spurs, which they were criticised for. I think the only consolation is that Frankfurt also wasted many of their opportunities. So for overall, Vass, for you, you're happy with that point?
I am. Well, I'm happier with the performance. I think, as Lee mentioned earlier, a lot of people are still on a massive downer from the Arsenal game, which was extremely frustrating. Yeah, and I'll just mention the Arsenal game briefly now, just to sort of set up. I think we were too deep against Arsenal, but I think we had moments where we could have capitalised if only we played the right pass or whatever. And it felt like Spurs were in the ascendancy in that game. And it was only because of Hugo's error 2 minutes in, and then subsequently Royal getting sent off, which should have been a yellow card. And the whole kind of atmosphere and the feeling amongst the fan base changes. Now, if you try to get realistic about things and try and put a certain spin on it, you're being accused of, not seeing right, or the performances are turgid. Somebody said it earlier on, and it's all just nonsense, really. I think, yes, we haven't clicked. We haven't really been very fluid this season. I get that. We've had great wins against Southampton and Leicester at home. We should have hit Fulham for a hatful as well. We lost our first league game in 13 on the weekend. So I think people's judgment is getting clouded for whatever reason. We're sitting third in the league, 4 points off top. Things aren't as bad as all that. But okay, I get it. You want to be entertained. You want to see a great game of football. You want to see us firing on all cylinders. We were scoring goals for fun last season to get into the Champions League. Now, all of a sudden, Conte's not a good manager. The tactics are all wrong. We've got the worst wing backs in the world. We've got no one to play passes in midfield. And it's just absolutely pathetic. This kind of cycle of thoughts and events that kind of bring everybody down. And if one fan's feeling down, he's determined to take another 100 with him. And if they don't agree with him, then, it's just nonsense. Going back to tonight, though, I will say...
Go on now, I've got a follow-up question to ask you, but you go first.
I was quite pleased with tonight's performance. We pressed a lot higher up in the pitch. We were winning balls in dangerous areas. We actually threatened. we played quite well. My only gripe would be that things were falling apart in the final third. Okay, and I do have a problem with Richarlison. I like him a lot as a player, but I think he stifles us somewhat, and I think his first touch is poor. It's been poor all season. And in the first half in particular, a lot of stuff that was hitting Richarlison was breaking our moves down. But that said, Son couldn't find his feet today. Harry Kane couldn't find his normal passing. But we should have bagged 3 goals today when all is said and done.
Yeah, message to John there on the screen. Unfortunately, Lex has been lost for the last 25 years being a gooner. So probably not the best time for me to say that. Probably not the best time for me to say that on the back of what happened at the weekend. I've got to see him soon for another stag do coming up. So I will definitely regret that at some point. And I'm still recovering from, like I said, Lex, that go-karting incident, which I'm still waiting for an X-ray from. So God knows when I'll get round to that at some point.
Smashing up some go-karts, Rick.
But I tell my life, never a dull moment. If I'm not changing nappies, I'm go-karting in the dark. So I say, come and join my life. It is a lot of fun at times. Cracks, coming over to you. You know what? I just feel like tonight, with regards to the actual game itself, I mean, people are going to view that in 2 different ways, aren't they? There's going to be some that are still unhappy by the style to some degree, although I think tonight was an improvement on that. And on the other hand, there'll be some that will see improvements. I mean, I do honestly think, Cracks, in the cold light of day, when you analyse this one back, I think had this point come on the back of the Fulham win or on the back of the Forest win, I think everyone would have been a lot more different to the fact that now it's come on the back of the North London derby and just still how low we're feeling after that. It's only been, 72 hours, 100 or so hours afterwards. So I think we're still feeling very low by that. But overly, for me, Cracks, I think that's still a decent point for Spurs. And when you think about it from their perspective, they've now got the 2 toughest away games out of the way, and they're still in a really good position where they could even go on and win the group. So I think when you look at it again, that, tonight, it was the finishing and the final ball that really, really crushed us, if I'm being honest with you. Again, there was a real elements of patchy performances in there, some players very low on confidence, but when you look at the chance overall, you go back and watch it, if you can put yourself through another 94 plus minutes of watching it. I don't know if you think, Cracks, as well, that Spurs had more than enough openings to win that game, but just very short of that quality in the final third, like it was against Arsenal, and just Son and Richarlison, as we actually said during our live show, I think, are struggling at the moment to really find a way of playing together. But I have to emphasise that point again tonight, that, that's not a terrible result. That was pot team 1 in the group that Spurs have gone away and got a point at. So, yes, it is a missed opportunity, but the element and the frank nature of it is now that, Cracks, we have to win those home games. And I think we always knew we had to win the home games if we're going to really qualify, wasn't we?
Yeah, of course. Win your home games, don't get beat away. And Højbjerg, in his post-match interview, he alluded to that. If you can't win it, don't lose it. And that seems to be a Conte mantra, doesn't it? So, a few seasons ago, that was the type of game where we'd have been sort of knocking on the door and just not getting our shooting boots on and not having them forward players that aren't quite doing it. And next thing you know, on 87 minutes, they pop up and they hit one and we're 1-0 down. But so that's not happening. That's not happened tonight. This thing with Conte, I get that some people are not enjoying the football, but then I don't think he's quite got the players that he wants yet. He has said this is a 2 or 3, 4 maybe windows more where I need to be able to bring some players in. So he doesn't want to change his system. That's what he plays. That's what we know he plays. It's what he's always played. So he will continue with that, and he will add in those players where he feels he needs to complete that jigsaw of the picture of what he wants. It's almost like there's a Conte jigsaw, and when you put it all together, you get a big picture of his smiling face. It's like a 1,000-piece jigsaw, and at the moment, he's sort of 700 pieces, and he's still got to go out and get those last pieces to complete it. So, I mean, if he completely changes his system, and then goes and gets players for the other way he wants to play, you've got to reteach everybody. Do you get what I'm saying? You've got to stick with the system and then slot in the players to suit it. So, and at the moment, he's just trying to get by with those players that just simply can't play it. Emerson can't play it, you know, that needs a bit of an upgrade. Mate, Højbjerg I quite like, but then sometimes not. Perisic tonight again, you know, somebody said, what's happened to the cheese grater? Well, he's gone from a very nice piece of cheddar that you could just like grate really lovely to like almost like a block of feta cheese, isn't he, in the last couple of games?
I feel like we lost the cheese, Rich. I think we've got the grater, but we just lost the cheese, haven't we?
Exactly. So, you know, it's one of these things. Do you want to stick with Conte and let him see through bringing in these players, which should ultimately improve that system and improve the football, or do you just go elsewhere? But then where do you go? If, you know, it's all very well people going, I don't want Conte, I don't like his style of football. Okay, I always say to people, so what do you want to do? Where do you want to go with it?
I think, what I'm confused about, Rich, and I'll let you come back on this, is that what I'm confused about is I think everyone that had watched Conte's teams in the past, Conte was not a Pep Guardiola manager. He was never tiki-taka. He was never really a guy that would open teams up. Similar to Mourinho in a way, it's almost like you give Conte the tools and he will deliver you trophies and he'll deliver you success. If you don't give him what the man needs, he won't be able to do that. So again, it's similar to Mourinho where you have to give the manager exactly what he needs in order to be successful. And if you don't do that, he won't win.
Again tonight, Rick, in his post-match presser, hasn't he? He said there's still players that I need to bring in to form this team in my image. So it's almost now a race between him getting the players that he wants and winning something, which means nobody can really moan, even if you're not enjoying the football to any great degree. You put in pots.
Crackers, they're still moan. People
well, maybe they will, but
the Champions League, and we're still somebody somewhere will still moan. Like that is just the reality. You can't please everyone.
The problem is now,
that's life, isn't it? That's life. You can't please everyone. That's life.
Just moaning about Tottenham. It's easy to do, isn't it? So we'll go out and win 6-7-0. Someone will still moan. There's no
getting away from it. The front three today were disjointed, and I think again I'm sure Vass, you're going to agree. It even more implies the fact of just how much we miss Kulusevski. I think that's obviously very clear because Kulusevski, when he comes into the team, he offers you balance. He seems to really give you a great, I would say, as you keep using that word balance across the front three. I think you can see that for Tottenham. I mean, again, these games, I know some are frustrated by the results of it being a 0-0, but these are, Vass, I don't know if you agree, these are a bit like a chess match. And towards the end of that game, in the grand scheme of things, a point away from home, considering Marseille's win, is no bad thing. And I think, again, you have to look at the fact that Spurs were really unfortunate to not convert the chances that we had into goals because we are still lacking, I think, a brilliant chance creator. The likes of a Maddison that you saw for Leicester a couple of nights ago. I know I was drumming him in the summer, banging the drum for Maddison. I honestly believe put someone like that in Spurs' team, it's a completely different side.
What type of player is he, Rick? What type of player is he?
Lockpicker. He's a number 10. People laugh at it, honestly. But honestly, the lockpicker, it honestly infuriates me just how people in the summer were saying, no, we don't need him. The creativity comes from the wing-backs. Look at our wing-backs. No offence. I mean, Perisic has gone right off the boil recently. No offence. I do like Perisic a lot. And again, Sessegnon a young guy coming through. I mean, Vass, sorry, I feel like I'm stealing your thunder here. What do you think?
That's all right. It's your show.
You're part of it, please.
We do miss Decky because he's got that. It's hard to believe he's only 22, that guy, because he's so calm on the ball. He sees it. He can be already a lock picker. I don't actually think we need to invest in anybody else, to be quite frank, because when he's on the pitch, he gives us what we need. I'll throw another question up for you. I mean, is it really a lock picker we need, or do we need somebody like a Dembele who was able to transition our play from defence to attack and then just lay it off to an attacking player? So, there's lots of things. And this business about a lock picker, a number 10, whatever, I might have mentioned it last time I was on as well, Rick, but there are teams that play without that particular type of player. Liverpool, case in point. And if you've got the quality wing backs, then
that's the difference, Vass. And
that's
yeah,
the difference.
And that is that's the difference. Liverpool have got quality in their wing backs where they don't need a. I'm not going to say lock picker again because I know people are thinking taking bets right now. They're taking a shot. We're taking a shot every time I say lock picker now. So I want to apologise to keep saying the word lock picker. Honestly, I just look at this Spurs squad and I still can't understand why we didn't push harder for that type of player. If we look at the wing back options we've got at the moment, and I'm sorry to dig out Perisic there because listen, had a really good start to the season. He's a winner, serial winner. Wherever he's been, he's won. I have just been disappointed over the last couple of games by the real lack of an input. But I mean, overall, I look at our side tonight, and I honestly do believe a number 10 is the difference, and Maddison is the difference. I'm not going to say lockpicker. I really am not going to say lockpicker. Lee, let's come over to you. I mean, Conte said in the Arsenal game that the final ball was the problem, and it certainly was tonight. Or, again, Lee, you kind of defended Conte already. You don't think he's being too inflexible here when it comes to the non-starters, trusting more in them? Because, again, tonight, no Basuma, no Jed Spence, who was always unlikely to play in this game. And when I refer back to his comments in the press conference again this evening, which I just want to read again one more time to get your view on it. Conte's last words in the press conference were, "We have to become more stronger as a squad. If we have the ambition and the intention for these two big competitions, Premier League and Champions League, and you lose a lot of energy and players to injury, you need a really, really big squad." There'll be people watching Last Word on Spurs now or listening to Last Word on Spurs shouting, saying, what about the bench? And I know we haven't got Moore on there. I know we haven't got Kulusevski on there. Should we be using Basuma more? Should we be using Jed Spence more, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, Jake's one of our own. Sorry, who are you going to, Rick?
That was going to Lee.
Lee.
We'll come back.
Sorry,
Lee. We'll come back to Lee. Go Cracknell and Vass.
Jace just tweeted the exact same thing. He just tweeted out, hang on a minute, you've got a bigger squad than you had last year. You're still not using it. What I would say, again, putting into context is because we've got a bigger squad, right? And we've been able to absorb the injuries of Lucas Moura and Dejan Kulusevski. We've absorbed them injuries. So we're in our kind of bare bones, if you like, our front three. But our bare bones still has Son, Kane, and Richarlison. So what I'm trying to say from a different perspective is people saying, "Oh, we need a big squad," or he's saying we need a big squad. Well, we've started the build of the bigger squad, and if we hadn't had, we would be playing, I don't know, a defender in the front three because we wouldn't have had the depth of Kulusevski and Lucas Moura. Do you see where I'm coming from? If we hadn't signed Kulusevski in January, and if we hadn't signed Richarlison, and we'd have stuck with a smaller squad, i.e. not got it bigger, the guys that are out injured now would be really hurting us. So when you look at it from a glass half full, glass half empty, obviously you can say, well, what are we going to do if we lose Kulusevski and we lose Lucas Moura and we lose Kane? Well, every club can say that, can't they? Like, what happens if Man City lose De Bruyne, Haaland, and Phil Foden? Like, yeah, they've got a massive squad and they've got more money than, well, other than Newcastle, anyone else. But if you lose them three players, you're still going to have, oh my God, my squad's not big. Look at Liverpool. They've started horrendously badly, in the Premier League. Why? Because they've got injuries. They've got injuries to key people like Thiago, like Trent Alexander-Arnold's not been playing well. Scored a worldie again tonight, though, didn't he? So I just think you've got to put some balance and some context around the whole thing. At the end of the day, if we can recover Decky and we can recover Lucas Moura, all of a sudden you've got 5 forward players plus Brian Hill to come back, and that is your squad. It's just unfortunate that both Lucas and Decky are injured at the same time. Come back to a point before about different formation changes. I said this at the weekend after the Arsenal game, and I'll say it again now. Starting Son, Kane, and Richarlison up front doesn't lend itself when Decky's out and Lucas Moura's out. It doesn't lend itself for you enabling you to do anything later on in the game. So today was an absolute classic example. Different on Saturday because we had obviously Emerson bloody got himself sent off or whatever. But today was a classic example of we were huffing and puffing and we're trying to blow the door down and we couldn't get the bloody door blown down. We couldn't hit the target. We couldn't da-da-da. So in the second half, maybe half an hour to go, it would have been a perfect opportunity, wouldn't it, to be able to bring on somebody of quality like Richarlison or Son. We brought on Son against Leicester as a sub. What happened? He scored a hat-trick. We brought on Kulusevski earlier in the season. I think it might have been against Fulham, and it might have been a different game actually, but I know he come on as a sub as Fulham, and he affected the game straight away.
Yep.
So the point I'm making is Conte is, in one hand, he's going, I need a big squad, because what happens if people get injured? Well, unfortunately, we have got 2 of our forwards injured, 2 of the 5, 2 of the 6, if you include Brian Hill. 2 of the 6 are injured, so that's a shame, but you're still playing free. Do you know what I mean? So you've got no way of coming to looking at the bench. So when you do look at the bench at the moment from a forward perspective, there isn't no one there, is there? Do you get what I'm trying to say? So you could say, oh, let's throw Spence on, but he's not going to play Spence in a forward position, is he? So Spence isn't really a forward option.
Well, and again, I agree with you. He's not going to play in a Champions League game at the moment, I don't think. And that's no disrespect to Spence. I just think he's not going to play him at the moment.
Exactly. But my point, even more so, I agree with that. But even more so, my point is, he's not going to play him in a forward position, is he? Do you know what I mean? So he's not going to go, oh, Richarlison, you sit on the bench, I'm going to play Spence in your position. He's not going to do that.
No.
So the point is that the only other thing that he can do is, if he wants to have something in reserve, i.e. on the bench, play a different formation. And that comes back to the point that you guys were making earlier, which is a 3-5-2. You play Son and Kane up front to start the football match when they're closer together, and you have an extra man in midfield, which literally allows a Perisic and an Emerson, God forbid, but whoever else, to literally bomb on. And now you've got 4 up front rather than the 2 up front. And that's the key difference. But he doesn't want to do it. He clearly doesn't want to do it, because otherwise he would have done it. He could have done it against Arsenal. He can definitely do it while Kulusevski's out, because it makes sense to do that. Could have done it again tonight, and he didn't. So he doesn't fancy that. He obviously doesn't fancy that. And he's
and I'm just being real here. The fact of the matter is that tonight we go into a game where Spurs have lost the North London derby and he's made 0 changes. I don't know of any manager, and in my time supporting Spurs, where we've been beaten 3-1 by Arsenal and they've not made a single solitary change. Normally you do make a change just to get a reaction from the side to say that isn't acceptable. And I think that was the frustration, that when the team was released tonight, which we're going to come on to in a second, I think fans were frustrated when the team came out, because they were expecting some form of something from Conte, a reaction to change the team up. And the fact that, again, he went with Emerson, who I know, again, he's going to polarise opinion because of what he done at the weekend, and there was performances in that simply weren't good enough. To not see one single solitary change, I think, was surprising for some. But to come back around to you, Cracks, if I can, we know at the moment neither Son or Richarlison are firing right now, which is probably the biggest issue of us all. And tonight, again, highlights that our decisive passing has been really, really woeful over the last couple of games. Now, we did play better overall in the final third, as we've touched upon, but it's still not to the standard which it needs to be if we are going to get results on a consistent basis. Watching that tonight, there was times where our attackers spent more time in midfield and were simply chasing the system of shadows, really, if I'm being honest with you. And we know Kulusevski is absolutely pivotal and key to this 3-4-3. And without him, you do feel that Spurs do need that additional body in midfield, which is why so many have been calling for having that 5, that pursuing midfield, that gives us another option, because you do feel that we're running everyone into the ground at the moment with the current team. I mean, do you have a view on that for you, Vass, in terms of the way Spurs are setting up, in terms of the team they're putting out there? Do you think it needs to have some more changes in there generally?
Well,
Look,
we go back to Saturday. Sorry, Vaz, is that you on me? Rick?
That was going to Crackers, and then we're going to go to Vass after. Sorry, Vass.
Okay. No worries. Look, Saturday, first half, got back into it. Half time, we discussed this. I've spoken to Arsenal supporters that said you was in the ascendancy. We was actually quite worried. You was on the front foot. You had the upper hand. And second half just ended up what it ended up. But first half, tactics worked fine. Again, tonight, tactics worked fine. There was nothing wrong with the amount of up to the final third chances that we created. There was a huge amount of chances we created, and they were good technical chances as well, because one of the damning stats you put up just before was there was only one offside all night. One. We had no offsides, which meant we're not sort of playing on the shoulder and knocking a ball over the top. We've tried to play through them tonight. you know, so which sort of suggests that you're actually trying to play a little bit of a sort of technically good football. And we did get into the final third. We're just in a moment, I think, Rick and listeners, you know, Kane's just a bit off of it. Son's just a bit off of it. Missing Kulusevski. Son and Richarlison don't really work together, you know. So we're not a million miles off of it. We're just a tad off of it, if you like. And you know, if once Kane, these ain't terrible players, you know. They're just in a moment where it's just not firing for them. And get that right, get the confidence back, get a couple of goals, and then we're not far off. It's, you know, we badly missed Kulusevski tonight. That final ball just gives you that bit more quality. But even when balls came into feet of Son and Kane, their touch was just off. They're just a bit off at the moment. But you know, with Conte, he's a stubborn old goat, Rick, isn't he? Let's face it. He is stubborn. He's not going to move from that system unless he has to, because he's enforced to with some injuries or suspensions and that. And that's just the way he's going to be. So now either he gets the players and it works, or the groundswell of people that are not going to put up with watching that type of football gets to a point where the club reacts to it. Well, I mean, they certainly did with Nuno, didn't they? It got to a point where so many people off he went. Jose, so many people were fed up with it, off he went. Even Pochettino, I mean, everybody now says about, oh, Poch this, Poch that, I loved Poch, he was this. We was booing him off in some of those games.
Towards the end, we couldn't buy an away. Towards the end, we could not buy an away. We could not buy an away win. We could not buy an away win towards the end.
It stunk. It stunk, and people, but you know, with a little bit of rose glasses, rose tinted spectacles, view at it. All of a sudden, he's like, just like, where has Vaz gone? Is he? He's got to find the
according to Paul Mansbridge, he's got to find the forward line. Good luck. It'll be gone a while.
Vaz in the final third. So we're just not a million miles off of it. You know, you spoke about Basuma and Spence. Don't forget, Conte works with these guys every day in training. So we don't know what Spence is like. We don't know what Basuma's like. We haven't got to see them playing yet, and we certainly don't know what they look like in training. So you know, do you trust the judgment of a serial winning manager that spent a life in the game, or Dave down the plumbers that says like, oh, you know, well, I don't know what Conte's doing because he ain't playing Basuma. Oh, sorry, Dave down the plumbers. Are you working with him day in, day out? Do you know what his attitude's like in training and just around the squad? Is he working hard enough? Does he offer the quality that to the level of what you think's needed at the moment? So listen, you either trust Conte or you don't, and it's as simple as that at the moment. So, you know, pick a side.
Let me come. Can I just come around to Vass, only because I'm consciously that with regards to his connection, we've got to get Vass in, and then we're going to come to the other issue, mate.
I'll never have this problem with our podcast. I've got to say, I don't know what you're doing back there, Ricky. But
then we go to Dave down the plumbers.
Dave down we might bring him on as a guest next week.
I should have said Dave down the locksmith, shouldn't I? Because he might have been able to give us a lock picker.
Please, God, please. I'll make you laugh. We got to get Vass in before we lose him again. It is like watching Spurs' forward line tonight. We're trying to get them before they go.
Sorry about this.
I know many. Don't be silly, mate. No problem at all. Many people picking up on the fact some of the stats that came out before the game tonight. So the average Premier League stats this season, the average possession for Spurs is 47.7%, which is ranking 12th at the moment. Possession won in the final third, 24, which is 19th. Passes into the final third, which are 20th. Progressive passes, which are 10th at 215. Big chances created, which is 16, which is 8th. Goals scored so far, 19 overall in the Premier League, which is 3rd. And shot conversion rate, which is 16.52, which is 2nd. Vass, I know I've thrown a lot of data at you there. And I do apologise for that. I probably should have gone more towards McQueen or his blue book. But, I mean, overall at the moment, Vass, when you take into account what I've read there and the fact that Spurs at the moment, you know, we're without a European away win since that 4-1 win at Wolfsberger in Budapest on the 18th of February 2021, which is 593 days ago. And on top of the fact that Spurs had lost 5 of their last 6 European away games coming into this, when you consider we had results negative against Sporting Lisbon, NS Mora, Vitesse, we got a draw at Rennes, we lost to Pajo de Ferreira, we lost to Zagreb. Do you think on the cold light of day, Vass, we'll look back on tonight and think that is a well-earned point, bearing in mind it's still in our hands?
Look, it is a well-earned point. A lot of those defeats happened under Nuno and Jose. Let's not forget, this is a different side. It's a different tournament. I think a draw away from home in the Champions League is generally a good result. I know it's cliche, but there are no easy games in this competition. From the stats that you just fired at me, it sounds to me, Ricky, that we don't need to have the ball a lot of time to score goals. We need calculated chances, and we appear to be quite clinical, given the ratios of where we're ending up in those stat tables. So it's not about possession; it's about what you do with it. Now, we had this conversation on our pod at the weekend in terms of the fact that Spurs sit deep and look to break away, and parallels were drawn with Mourinho. But my take on that is that Mourinho's teams generally tended to sit back and either defend the lead or not show too much by way of attacking intent. Whereas with this system we've got with Conte, we can break away and bury teams at any moment. And today was a case in point. We were winning the ball in good areas high up the pitch, something that we weren't doing in the North London derby. And when we did win the ball back in high areas, we looked dangerous every time. Now, the problem is, of course, if your front three aren't functioning like they should be functioning, it's going to break down and you're not going to get the result that you otherwise would have got. We've got to remember at the back end of last season, we were knocking Newcastle and Norwich for 5, Villa for 4, West Ham and Arsenal for 3. Loads more games I can't even recall right now, but we were scoring goals for fun because the system was working. Right now it isn't, and I think part of that is because we're trying to integrate Richarlison in the absence of Decky. So we're missing Decky first of all. People keep banging on about going 3-5-2 because the two in midfield get outnumbered, and even some people have said that tonight. I didn't see the two in midfield get outnumbered once today. We was in control of that game, but people use the same things to argue about when they're not happy. So apparently Emerson must have nudes of Conte, apparently, but he had a decent game tonight, I thought. I didn't see Emerson do anything particularly bad.
It's
the same old tired arguments, unfortunately, that people keep throwing up.
Yeah. You know what's interesting again tonight, Lee, coming over to you, we have to bear in mind, I've seen a lot of comments saying this, I think we do have to give Eintracht Frankfurt some credit for this evening because, you know, this is a side that have won their last 3 league fixtures, including beating Bundesliga leaders Union Berlin on Saturday. They're no pushover, and that atmosphere, Lee, you know, to have to go there and be able to withstand that kind of noise, and they literally are non-stop, right? They're non-stop, they're in your face, they're right on top of you. And I think that's a really intimidating venue. And when you do consider the fact that Spurs are just coming off the back of a real horrendous North London derby, a 3-1 defeat, I think tonight we've got to come away from that and say the players did show some character. And, you know, we're coming away feeling that we should have won the game. So do you think overall, Lee, again, when I put this to you, you know, we have to take some positives out of this?
Yeah, I've already said right at the beginning that I'm taking loads of positives out of it. I think it's good. I think we played well. I'm not one of the ones that's sitting.
I know. I just generally, like I say, I mean, many people were saying, you know, tonight, you know, the fact about Spurs and their lack of, you know, fluidity in the front three. But you have to surely give credit to Frankfurt for nullifying that as well.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think that Crack has made a point on his earlier point about we didn't get in behind them that often. But again, that's maybe you've got to give Frankfurt the credit. They did sit back. They Spurs, didn't they? Tonight, that's what they basically played like we were playing the other couple of days. You know, sit back. They didn't really press us tonight. They sat off us and tried to create them spaces. They played the exact same system, a 3-4-3. Tried to create them spaces down the sides. For themselves. So yeah, I mean they defended well. I mean, wasn't we linked with that guy? Is it Indika? Yeah, we was. Well, we was linked with half the world, but yeah, I know what you mean. I know we were linked with half the world, but you know, I think left-sided centre back guy played pretty well. But that that again, it wasn't as if like we had limited shots on target, but it was our finishing that let us down the most. That is the truth of the matter. Is on another day. On another day, Son scores that bloody goal, don't he, with a little flick from Kane all day long. On another day, Kane puts that header in on knees.
Raj's comment on the screen there is spot on. It was two teams who were set up the same that nullified each other. I think that's spot on.
Yeah.
That's what I said 0-0 on Saturday, Rick.
You did?
Simple as that.
Yeah. Agree. I totally agree.
You did say that with Cracknell and Vass Koni on Saturday. But I think that at the end of the day, the finishing that didn't have tonight, that was the problem. I don't think we defended badly today. No. I don't think anyone was in particular poor in the middle. I thought in the middle of the park, I thought Bentancur and Højbjerg played pretty well. I thought Longley played pretty well. I thought Romero was okay, 6, 7s out of 10s. I think when you get to the front three, that was the problem. I think you're giving them 5s and 6s. That's the reality.
Agree. What we are going to do is we are going to go for our first break of the show for our listeners and audio. For our watching audience here, we're joined by a good 500 plus of you watching us live on the back of Spurs in the Champions League with a 0-0 draw away at Frankfurt. We'll let you be the judge of whether you deem that to be a positive point or a real missed opportunity. We're joined back on his first Champions League show in over 4 years by Lee McQueen. We're joined by Mr. Richard Cracknell here, who's keeping us going all evening. And we're joined by the wonderful Vass Koni, whose connection is hopefully going to be as Spurs getting back into form now, because it has strengthened out, Vass. So we're hoping this is hopefully going to lead the way now. We're hoping so. Vass, a regular, of course, on a lot of our Champions League / Carabao Cup / FA Cup. He doesn't know what he's got coming, Vass, but he will know soon when those new fixtures come. First getting all the cup games. We do have to apologise to Vass. He's on the late nights. Vass, thank you so much.
Given that we haven't won a cup for God knows how long, I don't think I'll be on for very much. So.
Vass, we'll see you up until February then, mate. Is that what it is?
Yeah, something like that.
We'll bring you back for the pre-season tours. Don't worry. Just a reminder, of course, the last word on Spurs here, that we are delighted to be sponsored by NordVPN. Of course, we call them the hurricane of VPNs. You name whatever you want about NordVPN. I think what we all agree with VPN on is that, from their perspective, they are one of the most strongest and reliable VPNs out there. Of course, for a lot of our viewers and watchers and listeners around the world, lots of you are traveling in and around, of course, the realms of Europe for the Champions League, and we're hoping it's going to stay that way. Of course, you are going to need Nord as part of your journey should you wish to, like I say, make sure you keep up on all your latest TV wherever you're based, in whichever location. Of course, you can switch your location. You can then also enable yourself to watch all the latest sports that you want to do. We know Jason's a massive fan of the underwater volleyball, plus the Ritz, which you probably can't say on this kind of show. But make sure you check out Nord. We have got a discount code for you right now, which we're going to put on screen. Crax's, I've got to try and keep it together with Crax's face there. You can go to www.nordvpn.com/LWOS to get yourself a huge discount off your NordVPN plan, plus 4 months free. It is completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day back money guarantee. Crack is bursting.
Shows Jason watches, Rick, that we can't really talk about.
That's the ones.
Do you mean Love Island?
I'm talking about Love at First Sight, actually. But yeah. Can you imagine Jason sitting there watching Love at First Sight? I'll tell you what. Get that off the TV, will you? Jason McGovern, Love at First Sight. Can't see it. Just can't see it. What we are going to do is we are just going to delve into the starting lineup of this evening, because again, a lot of it was highly anticipated, and just like Spurs, really overall a real anti-climax. So, Lee, let's start with you. That team you can see on your screen there, we had Lloris in goal. It was unchanged from Arsenal, of course, and we had that back five of Perisic, Longley, Dyer, Romero, Royale, the two in midfield, and Bentancur, Højbjerg, Son, Kane, Richarlison up front. Again, Lee, coming over to you. Any surprises that Conte was completely unchanged given the performance of that North London derby?
Tell you what, Rick, ever since we've had these graphics, we ain't had to change them much, have we? He keeps playing the same thing.
Let's work for our social team, Lee. Don't complain on it, mate.
No, what I mean, I want to start moving them around with the social team. But look, yeah, I mean, when the team, I was actually working still. I didn't even see the team come out until about 10 minutes before the game starts, and it was on the ticker thing. So when I actually saw it, I thought, I'm disappointed that we didn't change it up. He keeps going on about big squads and rotation and all these games that we've got coming up and this, that, and other. He plays the exact same team that lost on Saturday. I slightly disagree with you about the whole at least make one or two changes off the back of a performance, because sometimes I think you got us into this mess. You go and get us out of it. Do you know what I mean? Go and prove to me that you're good enough.
Is that me or Conte? Just to confirm, Conte or me?
No, I think you, because you said earlier, like, I can't believe a manager hasn't made a change. But sometimes a manager might turn around and go, do you know what?
Trust you to blame it on me, McQueen. What else is new?
I know. No, I was saying, like, actually, you got us into this mess on Saturday. Now go and get us out of it. You know, go and show me to play well.
Yeah.
But you know, for me personally, I would have liked to see a couple of personnel changes to use the squad to start integrate. The problem that we've actually got is that if we don't start playing some of these other players, they're never going to be match fit or match ready to step in when we do need them. And that's going to end up being a problem. But I'm not quite sure what's going on. There has been some rumblings about the training regime, and I noticed a couple of our Korean friends in the comments of the YouTube stream today have said he trains people too hard. I've heard a couple of rumors about that as well. You know, that people are feeling that effects of that. So I don't understand if people are tired or they're feeling that effects. Why isn't he changing it up? Because let's be honest about it, right? We've got Romero. You've got your own opinion on it, right? But Romero has just travelled halfway around, you know, the world and back in 6 days and played three away games or whatever he's done, including the Argentina and then obviously Arsenal and then obviously today. But we've got Sanchez there. You've got Davis who's just come back from an injury, but you know we've got Longley there. You've got Sessegnon and Perisic. But Perisic played. You could have easily played Sessegnon tonight, couldn't you? Like, could have easily have played him. Royale, I actually understand why he played him, because he's banned for the next 3 games. So he's probably thinking, I'll have to play somebody else in that position now. So I might as well get a game out of him. You know, I can't believe Skip could have played tonight. He's had a good 15 minutes the other day. He played against the under-21s as well, so he's got some stuff in his legs. He could have played Basuma easily today. Why has he got these other players if he's constant? So what are we saying? Is he playing Basuma against Brighton at the weekend? Or is this same midfield two going to start again against Brighton? Like, it doesn't make sense, Rick.
This is the argument, isn't it? Again, like you say, you refer back to his post-match comments tonight, and again, he has reiterated the point. Maybe I think some people have said in the comments tonight that he's maybe talking about future windows when he says he needs a really, really big squad. But he made it very, very clear to the board that the case was that he wanted players in early to bed them in, to be able to get to know his own philosophy. And he keeps on reiterating this point tonight where he says, I think if I say now we have to take steps and have patience, if you compare Champions League with Europa League or Conference League, it's completely different. You have to play with your strongest 11, and it makes it difficult to make more changes. Now, on that basis, you have to say that then you would surely expect, coming over to you, Vass, that we are going to see some changes come the weekend. But again, just to reiterate tonight's team, Vass, to get your thoughts on it. Of course, Conte named an unchanged team. Spurs were, of course, without Dejan Kulusevski, Lucas Moura going into this one. Ben Davies, as Lee mentioned, was back from injury to take his place on the bench. Again, of course, as you can see on your screen there, he opted to play with all the 3 forwards, Kane, Son and Richarlison. It meant no fresh attackers to face Brighton at the weekend unless Brian Hill was to come in. And we saw Brian Hill pick up, obviously, some minutes late on. Emerson Royale, of course, like Lisa, probably makes sense he plays tonight because he won't be available at the weekend. And, you know, that team, as we've said there, the bench especially, Austin, Forster, Doherty, Spence, Davis, Sanchez, Sessegnon, Skip, Basuma, Sarr, White, Hill. I mean, we're naming 2 goalkeepers on there, Vass. Does it feel at the moment, Vass, that we haven't really got a lot of options really at the moment?
No, without Decky and Lucas being available, you're devoid of attacking options, particularly when you're putting all, as Lee said earlier, putting all 3 of your attackers on the pitch from the start. Listen, Conte's never been one to rotate his squads, as far as I'm aware. He loves playing his essentially his best 11.
He's tried and tested, right, Vass?
Yeah, but of course, as fans, we had a good summer. We got excited by some of the signings, and we need to see them play. But Kev G made a point earlier, and he says, "Look how Højbjerg and Bentancur dropped into defending zones when either Romero or Longley push forward." And I think that's what Conte means about trusting certain players and not others yet. And he kind of alluded to this on Basuma. He wants to see him work harder when he hasn't got the ball. Got to remember, Basuma, great player, love him. I really wanted him at Spurs. But at Brighton, he was playing in the midfield 3. Right? He had others to mop up behind him when he couldn't and he can move into different positions. When you're playing as a central 2, your responsibilities are different. So I don't know, maybe that's got something to do with it. I mean, Hill, for example, there's a lot of fans wanted him to come in and play, and why not use him, etc. He came on for 15 minutes. Poor kid, it's his first 15 minutes for God knows how long. He had a bit of a struggle tonight. And now they're all saying, "Oh, Gill's rubbish. Don't bring him back in."
I thought he looked okay towards the end. I mean, it's only 15 minutes. I think that sounds mad.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really draw a conclusion off the
final 90 seconds. He looked all right. Poor bloke, poor kid. You know what? You're right, Vass. Again, you're throwing a kid there. You're throwing a kid against the walls there, aren't you? I mean, I'm sure Cracks has got an analogy lined up for him, 100%, because he's always got a Brian Hill analogy lined up. But Cracks has come over.
Jordan, sorry, he's brought something up as well in the pre-season about getting them in early. Bissouma and Forster got COVID in Korea and couldn't train.
Really good point.
And Spence and Longley signed after the tour. So there's different factors that has delayed players' developments. Now, you'd think probably 3 months into a season, or 2 months into a season, that some of this might start coming to fruition. But you've got to hope that now in October we've got shed load of games that he's going to have to change things around, isn't he?
Surely he's going to, isn't he? He surely has to. Again, lots of comments on Brian here. We're going to come on to him shortly, and Crackers will give you the foresight analogy of him. Of course, he's the Spanish expert over here who's watched his career since the age of 4.5. I think since he came out, Rich, didn't he? Wasn't you at the birth for him, Rich?
I've watched him since he was 4.5 years old, Rick. So that's 18 months I've been watching him for. I mean, he's just like poor little Spanish Ringo Starr. I mean, he's just, please come on, like Mrs. Hill.
He's just moved on to the solids.
That's exactly what he needs, isn't it?
He does need the solids.
Some solids in him. He's
need
got
to give him
that. Bulk out a little bit. He's so lightweight, but he has got a lovely touch. He really has.
Yeah, you're right.
I think once he develops, he's going to be a different prospect. But at the moment, forget it. He's still a mile off of it. He's just one for the future, isn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, I want to touch on a point that one of the viewers, Gavin, he did look about 6
from King Hoddle. Can I just say, I do absolutely love King Hoddle. He cracked some of the comments he drops in every show.
And bless him, he's got that tash that he's like probably been 3 years trying to grow, and he just dared shave it off, isn't he? Because he just don't know if he's ever coming back again.
He's worried. That is his first bum fluff moustache, and he's worried if he shaves that off. It ain't coming back. He's worried about it. Don't you worry about that. He totally is, man.
He's got a little bit of wax on it, trying to look quite the man around town.
He spent more time on the floor than someone in the WWE, like when he came on. And he proved it was almost like Conte. He put him on 15 minutes. Conte's like, told you he was too lightweight. Told you I didn't really.
But he's going to need games. But he also is going to need games to improve. I mean, he's going to need games, right?
Yeah, he needs to go to Valencia. He wanted to go. Valencia wanted him. Conte wanted him gone. But for some reason, the club didn't let him go. The club couldn't get a replacement into him, and therefore he stayed. And it's not good for him. It's not good for Conte. It's not good for anyone.
Yeah, can I just say
there
before...
seems to be an imbalance at the moment, Rick, doesn't there, of those people that ain't getting enough time and those that he sort of trusts just getting too much time at the moment, and he just can't seem to get a balance between... maybe it's because he hasn't got cover, but I mean, Gavin in the comments a little while ago, again, he said, are we going to discuss Lloris and his poor touches again tonight and his poor distribution? And, I think that breeds a little bit of, fear in that. You don't, when he starts slicing balls out and he's not putting, that creeps out amongst that back three. And this is our captain, he shouldn't be doing that. It breeds a little bit of fear across that back line, doesn't it? He just doesn't look assured. And if your keeper is assured in that respect and his touch is good and his distribution, I mean, at one time in the first half, he took a ball and instead of playing it into, I think it was Longley's feet, he just sort of like looped one up which was going to take about 4 touches to get under control. And by the time you've done that, you've got 3 Frankfurt players on you. You know, you're surrounded by more Frankfurters than Chris Cowling today, putting his pictures up. Every 2 minutes was having a sausage-based meal, wasn't he? We're putting the pictures into the group. Honestly, yeah. So, you know, that's not right at the moment.
People saying just to interrupt you, people saying in the comments about how he looked battered or he looked on something, Lloris. I wonder whether he's injured, right? This thigh injury, and he's been having injections or something.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, Conte makes them play through the pain barrier. You do wonder that.
I'm not making excuses for his passing because it's always been woeful. Like this is under Nuno, Poch, like he's under what's he been at the club 10 years or whatever. 300 games. It's always been horrendous. His passing out, but I wonder whether there's something. Conte alluded to it, didn't he, with the Jed Spence, Ali Gold, friend of the show, asked him a question in the presser yesterday, and he said, "Look, you don't know what goes on the train. I see it, you know, with the Yves Bissouma and Jed Spence and whatever." And maybe he was also doing that generally to say, actually, you don't know what goes on, so we don't know what's going on with Hugo Lloris. Maybe he's had like fucking cortisone injections stuffed in his thigh because he can't play football, and which is also a concern because we bought Fraser Forster, who's got Champions League experience as well.
Yeah, so, but I would imagine with Fraser Forster, his first appearance will be that Carabao Cup tie against Forest, I would imagine. So again, I think Vass is back for that one. He can't wait for that. Vass trying to keep saying on it. Before we bring Vass back in, just had a couple of super chats we're just going to bring into the conversation. Sui says, we need a left-footed right winger. Our output from there has improved with Kulu. We even saw output from Bale as well, to be honest with you. Interesting who starts at right wing back come the weekend. Jordan says, a creative 8 and a quality right wing back is more than needed. They're number 10 at the moment. That's his view on that. And then finally, I know we've had one more that I'm going to try and find here. This is from Kuan Taki, who says, our front three have 0 link-up, heavy touches, poor distribution. It's so important that our front three control the ball well and link up together. And he said it was awful. My apologies. I think I've actually butchered your name there. Sorry, that was Kuan Taki. I'm hoping I've got that right. Please accept my apologies. You'll know from me trying to pronounce the player's name. It's hard enough, let alone anybody else. So please accept my apologies. Vass, to come over to you. We've got to squeeze in Brighton as well. We've got some great previews on that actually for our listeners and audience. Vass, overall, I mean, just to kind of listen, we're lucky the game wasn't that, action-packed, so we can fly through the game itself. I mean, overall early on, we actually saw interestingly Højbjerg dropping into centre-back alongside Dyer Romero, who was pushed out to right-back, and Royal then kind of played almost as a high and wide winger. At the start of that game, we have 2 early chances, a lovely ball from Eric Dyer over the top of Frankfurt's defence. Emerson ran onto it, and you know the rest. It was a volley that went right over the bar. There was also a really big chance for Spurs, really good tackle from Højbjerg, leading to an Emerson pass, a great Son dummy and a spin for Richarlison then, who's put Son's cross in the 6-yard box. It evaded everybody. But we did see early on, Vass, as I mentioned, and even to go on the fact that Son had a curling shot that went wide but was later given offside. There was intent from Spurs to really go forward in the early stages. And again, I think that should give, hopefully, fans some optimism going forward. Would you agree based on the start of that game?
Yeah, definitely. And throughout the game, I mean, Sonny had 2 excellent chances, which the kind of chances that he buried against Leicester without any issues. The second one in particular was a beautiful chance when Richarlison laid it up for him. And Kane had a couple of chances right in front of the goal from hard crosses. If crosses had been a bit better, maybe he could have capitalised. We had good chances today to score. And of course, that's promising. I think that's good. We've got to be creating these opportunities. I think if our front three can get back and firing, then it shouldn't be a concern, really.
Yeah, I agree. Coming over to you, Cracks, if I can. Listen, I think going into that half-time, Spurs probably were the better side and more positive overall, you'd say, on the front foot. I think, again, as I alluded to earlier, we did show a lot more intensity than the previous performances. And then the game opened up from the restart. We had chances for Kane. And then Richarlison teeing up Son for an opportunity that he killed over the frame of the goal. Lloris actually took a really smart save from Knulf in the opposition's goal. And then we saw an opportunity where some real calamity play from us at the back. Fortunately, Lundstrom didn't punish us because it was a real sloppy moment in that game. And did you ever feel, Richard, lack of control from Tottenham in that game? Or do you feel it ended up becoming, as I said earlier, a bit of a chess match? Spurs obviously not looking to lose it, as unfortunately we did against Sporting, and therefore Conte making the changes, Sessegnon for Perisic, Davis for Longley, almost really trying to shore up the side and make those changes to keep it all fresh.
Yeah, the game very much ebbed and flowed, didn't it? We had a 10 minutes where we was in the ascendancy and doing really well, and then all of a sudden we were under the gun for 10 minutes, and then we'd find a bit of rhythm again, and back we came, and then back they came, but just with neither side having that sort of quality up front. So, I mean, it wasn't a dire 0-0 as such, was it? It was actually quite back and forth, and if you was a neutral and you was watching that game, you'd think, well, that wasn't too bad. It just neither side could find that final bit of quality, could they? You almost felt like they gave us a little bit too much respect, and we never quite went for it enough either. So, but it might be quite a blessing that we've got them back to back, because now we've sort of got to get a look at what they are, who they are, and what they do. Then we should hopefully have enough quality next week to get that home win, which really does put us in the driving seat. But it was real 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But we never really, apart from that Laurie save from North, was decent. I mean, if he'd have caught that, it was in. But then we had a couple of chances the same. If we sort of managed to just get a foot or a better quality touch on the ball, we was in, wasn't we? So, there was a lot of elements to tonight off the back of the weekend, as we said before. And it was also one of them games tonight that had we lost it, we would have been in the madhouse, like, for qualifying.
Oh.
But drawing actually put us in a good position. So it was a real all or nothing. So, like, the draw suited us far more than it suited them. So, it was an ebb and flow game.
I think the key, as we've said, isn't it? It's all going to come down to our home games. We have to win the home games. Provided we win the home games, we're going to be absolutely fine. As we mentioned earlier, Hill replaced Richarlison for his first Spurs appearance since the 4-4-2 game at Stamford Bridge in that 2-0 defeat at Chelsea back on the 22nd of January. We saw late on Kane put setting away down that left-hand side, delivered a really nice low cross that Son just couldn't quite turn round the right side of the post. And I think towards the end of the stage, the referee just completely seems to lose any sense of control of that game. It was really, really bizarre. I have to say, really, really bizarre. But what we are going to do is we are just going to go for our next break of the show for our listeners and audio. We are just going to quickly squeeze in. We're going to try and get you away by midnight. We're going to quickly just talk about some of the player performances. And we've got some Brighton previews for you, which means the boys, all they've got to do is give us a nice Brighton prediction. How easy is that? I haven't got to even do team news. Look at Vass's face. He's smiling there. Vass needs that cup of cocoa before bedtime. You can tell he does. So thank you so much. Right. We're joined by, of course, Lee McQueen, Vass Koni, Mr. Cracknell, guiding you through Spurs' Champions League journey. We've still got over 500, 600 of you plus watching us live across all of our platforms. So again, thank you so much for all of your support from Last Word on Spurs. We know it's late, so I appreciate you sticking with us here on another Champions League night. Lee, you touched upon it there. Let's come to you first. Hugo Lloris, another real poor day for him when it comes to his distribution. I mean, even during the warm-up, there was some concern with some of his kicking. But, he put Romero, as I think you said earlier, into a real problematic position. You touched on it there in terms of the injury. I mean, how seriously do you think this is at the moment with Lloris? Because he's never going to improve his kicking, is he? I think we always accept the point now. He's been at the club over 10 years or coming up to 10 years. Do you think now it's just a case of, we said before, we just need to, like I say, keep an eye on the future, really, and what the next goalkeeper can bring us if Lloris is going to be in charge of that? Because he seems to be very much keen on emphasising the point that he would like to be involved in that next stage of the recruitment of a new Spurs keeper for the long term.
Well, one thing's for sure, like the sun rising the next day, is that Lloris is not going to change and improve his kicking anymore. Like, people always say that he can improve. I don't want to be Mr. Negative on it, far from it, but he ain't changing that. It's just the way it is, and that is it. You have to accept that. He's a fantastic goalkeeper. But he's always had spells in his career, throughout his career, at Spurs, where he does go through some shaky moments, like a couple of games on the trot, or maybe longer than that. A few weeks worth of hang on. I remember when Gazaniga was at the club, bloody good looking Gazaniga. You know what I mean? And there was some people clambering for him to replace Lloris during one of his dodgy spells, and then obviously he came in, made a massive clang against Chelsea, and then that was the end of that. And then Lloris came back.
Sounds about right, as you do.
Yeah, exactly. And it is that sort of scenario. So I do think that, again, I'm just trying to be just calm and balanced, right? At the end of the day, he's not perfect. No one's perfect, other than maybe Erling Haaland. Maybe at the moment is perfect. Like everyone else, no one's perfect, and everyone's got flaws that they need to work on. But you just got to look at that. I think sometimes I actually think his short game is actually got a lot better. Like when he just gets the ball and pass it literally to Dyer. It's them clip balls. We were talking about it at the weekend when we was all together, when he's like chopping people's heads off with the ball, and he's giving them a decision to make. And then when he's charging out, when he first came to Tottenham, don't forget, he used to be like the sweeper keeper. Do you know what I mean? Like he used to be brilliant at doing that, and now you're worried about it. So look, I do think there is something there with an injury, though. If you speak, and maybe a lot of you viewers and listeners, a lot of you play sport, professional, semi-professional, professional sport, whatever it is, you play down a park. But when you get an injury at this elite level, it's a massive problem, and it only takes 1%, 0.5%, but 1% of your level to drop, and at this level you see it. At elite level. I remember Jamie saying, like Jamie runs up. Shout out to Chris Callan, by the way, friend of the show, obviously one of our own. He ran the London Marathon on Sunday, so fair play to Chris Callan. He completed it, done the business there, son. Well done. But Jamie runs as well. He's for a running club, and he said when he was injured, it is so frustrating because you can't do what you want to be able to do. It's a little bit like getting old, isn't it, boys? Like when you're getting older, you can't do certain things, and it's highly frustrating.
I'll let you know when I get old, Lee.
I was going to say I don't know that. Do you know what I mean? But I'm sure.
Tell me about it.
But no, but it's true though, isn't it? So if you think about it in that way, it's not maybe an age thing with Lloris, but maybe he's carrying a slight knock, and he's the one going, put me in a quarter zone. I'll be fine. But actually, he's struggling a little bit with it, and that's maybe coming from his performances. I don't. It's weird. I don't think we defended badly at all today, but on another day, we could have probably conceded another three today, couldn't we? To be fair.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. Guys, we're going to summarise on the defenders. Let's come over to you, Cracks, on this. So Romero, I think tonight he looked back to his old self. He looked obviously good at some points, joined up the attack when he could. Longley, to be fair to him, there was a couple of tackles he made quite nervy towards the end there, which led to him being taken off for Davis. But I think overall dealt with what had to come his way on the night.
Do you think, Rick? Just quickly on Longley, because I thought we had a good game.
But
towards the end. Yeah, he made a couple of dodges. He was lucky in the end because he got.
He has played quite a number of games now where he's not really been used to playing a lot. So I think maybe he'll probably be back in the team for the weekend. You'd imagine. It's interesting. Davis, of course, was back in the squad tonight. Whether it'll be up to Conte to decide on that. Exactly. Eric Dyer, to be fair, didn't do much wrong tonight. You've got to say, overall, looked okay. Was unlucky not to, obviously, have an assist early on for Emerson, who volleyed over. I'm sure he wasn't counting that potentially as an assist, bearing in mind Emerson's finishing. No offence to him. On Emerson, to be fair, quieter in the second half after some forays forward. And then, obviously, even Perisic, really a quiet game on the whole for him. He was replaced by Sessegnon towards the latter stage of that on the 70-minute mark. Overall, defensively, Rich, anything really to add at the moment? Anyone stand out?
I thought we were pretty solid at the back, and Romero looked like he was back to his best, but or getting back there anyway. But guess what, Rick? It was a Champions League game. We were playing Frankfurt. They won the Europa. They won like the UEFA Cup. They're doing well in the Bundesliga, which is a decent quality league. They're a decent quality side. We're away. Defences are going to come under pressure. That's part of it. And we're not playing, Tin Pot FC. This is Frankfurt. So you are going to have times when you come under pressure, and they dealt with it quite well. One or two times it goes a little bit, seat of your pants, but I think that's any team and any defence. So, but so you can sort of look at little moments and go, well, that didn't look so great. That wasn't so good. But you can't do that. You have to look at the whole picture, the whole game. And tonight they coached really well. There was very, very few all my days moments.
No, exactly.
One or two of them actually came, as Lee said, from Lloris, putting balls in around people's necks and, just putting a hospital ball in here and there and slicing it out. So, defensively, no problems at all tonight. Was really good.
I mean, credit to Ryan Sessegnon, a player that I've been highly critical of, probably because I wanted to see more of him in terms of growth. I mean, he came on, he did cause Frankfurt problems late on, and there were some really nice moments for him there. And it was a solid show from off the bench. Again, with Sessegnon, it's about can he now keep that consistency up and shout for us in the next game. Ben Davies, to be fair to him, back in action, started into the left-hand side, of course, of our defence. It was only 10 minutes for him, but again, solid on the eye. Vass, will come on to you just for the midfield. Højbjerg, again, listen, you know what you're going to get from Højbjerg. He worked ever so hard throughout the game. Of course, he had a booking early on, which you had to contend with, which I've got to be honest and say, I know many picked up on it. That referee tonight, towards the end, lost complete control of that game. That is one of the most softest yellow cards I've ever seen given to a player. Højbjerg was literally just shadowing the ball. I don't know what he'd done wrong. I honestly don't know what he'd done wrong. And to be fair to Bentancur, it was a quieter game than what we're used to from Bentancur. I don't know whether, like I said, in the last couple of games, whether Bentancur just got into his shell a little bit. I don't know. What do you think, Vass, on that midfield tonight?
I think they did fine. Like I said, the fact that they were pushed up and winning the ball higher up the pitch worked well for us up to a point, obviously. But Højbjerg did well, and I think Bentancur had another decent game, to quite frank.
Okay.
Højbjerg's pirouette towards the end of the game. It was absolutely outstanding. He done a pirouette, didn't he?
Pirouette.
The double drag back. Yeah.
The number 6 out with just like a la 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 la, boom. Loved it. No one picked that up.
I did like from Højbjerg tonight as well was not only was his performance solid enough when he was interviewed after the game with BT Sport, and they said, in light of everything what's been going on, would you say that's a decent away point? And he point blank said no. He said, because we should have actually won that. So really the attitude and, the desire is right. He said, no, ultimately we are disappointed because we did create enough to actually do more than that, and I like to see that. So
did he come out and call his strikers shit though, and say that they should never play for the club again?
He came on, Rick, and he said, "I've just spoken to Dave at the Plumbers, and he's told me that I've got to tell you on BT Sport that them 3 up front are proper 2 bob, and Conte don't know what he's doing. Thanks very much. Good night." He went, and off he went. Back.
Amazing.
Lee, just on that front 3. I mean, listen, Richarlison tonight. I think we've got to say that generally. No, but I mean, generally tonight, Richarlison, I just think he was less effective in the second half. I think, again, there is that issue with him and Son together. I mean, Son obviously had a chance early on, 12 minutes on the clock. He curled a ball into the box, which neither Romero or Kane could get hold of. If they score that, he's got an assist to his name. But I think, again, Son showed tonight he was, I would say, out of the 3, he was the player that looked like he was going to make something happen out of the 3, if I'm being honest with you. That's how I saw it with Son. I honestly did think I saw it like that. Kane, I think, lacked the quality in the second half. And just, he had a couple of half chances, but Kane, tonight, not the commanding man you want in these games. Champions League, these are where the big names step up, Lee. Ronaldo's, the Haalands of this competition, this is where they earn their name. And that's what you want Kane to be, right, in this competition?
Yeah, I mean, I think I said in the group, I think he had 2 opportunities, and I said in the group, the next opportunity he gets, he'll score. And he didn't get another opportunity until about the 75th minute in the second half, and he didn't do very well with it. So clearly I was wrong. I'm talking about Kane. Look, I think the way I see it, and who am I? I'm just some dude, right? But the way I see it is, in game, if you're struggling and you can see that them passes not going through or whatever, why can't Kane drop back proper deep into the top of a diamond, right? And then Richarlison go up top. Like he wears the number 9 on the back of his shirt, and I've had a problem with this since the summer window. And I said this again on the show on Saturday when we was in Beavertown Corner Pin, which, by the way, is bang opposite the South Stand. But it is. But the thing is, why can't in game you turn around and say Kane drops back a bit and Son and Richarlison go a bit more narrow? So you've almost got now a 3-4-1-2, and Kane can be that playmaker. We're talking about lock pickers and Madisons and all this. Kane's that man if you want to be able to do that, or you start Richarlison up front, give Kane a rest. Kane's not going to get a rest. He took a knock to down his knee on the goalpost. He then took a knock on his shin, and he was hobbling for a bit. And this bloke's just played 2 internationals as well for England. Every single minute of every single game, bar 12 minutes against Fulham. When is this bloke going to get a rest? I'm not saying rest him for the Champions League. That's stupid. And obviously we've got Becky and Lucas injured. But I suppose what I'm saying in game, why can't, because Richarlison's, we've had the phenomenal Tim Vickery on this very show with us, Wick, and he was telling us that Richarlison is the most effective bombing in from the left-hand side. You go and ask any Everton, go Guesty, obviously friend of the show that does Golden Guest with Ali as well. Go and speak to him. Where is Richarlison most effective? In the position Son plays, right? So he's coming in off the right. So that's slightly skew, slightly different. You've also got the situation that I keep banging on about as well, which is Perisic and Son. They have not scored or assisted whilst they've been on the pitch together. That is a fact in the blue book, right? It's here. And the reality is something's not happening right there. So when you play Sessegnon, and here's the thing, Son came off the bench for Leicester, Perisic, Sessegnon came off for Perisic, Son scored a hat-trick. Yeah. Previously, when they've been on the pitch together, they haven't scored or assisted at all since they've been on the pitch in every single game that they've played together. So there's them little things that Conte's got to work out. That's what he gets paid the big bucks for. And ultimately, when it's, I just think when it's not working, you've got to be intelligent enough as players, and the manager's got to trust enough as well to be able to make that change and make that. I sound like Michael Jackson now. Make that change. But in game, make the change. Do you see what I mean? Like, get Richarlison up front. Maybe he can do. I don't think we was winning any headers, lads, listeners, viewers. Do you agree? Like, I don't think we win headers. We didn't hold the ball up at all today. Richarlison or Kane. Some of Kane's hold-up play when it was on the ground, and he was very strong, great. But headers coming in, I'd love to see the stat. I got it in the blue book. How many headers did we win?
That's one for the next social team for sure. But what we are going to do is we are going to go for our final break of the show for our listeners and audio. For our watching audience, we've got a good still 400, 500 of you plus watching us live across all of our platforms. Take you into this break, you are going to hear from a whole host of Brighton podcasters that are very kind of giving us their thoughts ahead of the game. And then we're going to do literally predictions for Brighton, conscious of time, wherever you heard that before on Last Word on Spurs. Right, we are going to go straight into Brighton. We've been very lucky for our listeners and audio there, they've just heard a whole host of Brighton podcasters. There was three on there from the different podcasters. Only because we had a point at one point where we wasn't sure we were going to get any. Then we had a whole flurry of Brighton podcasts. We'll do a preview for you. So we had three on there. So that was
It's my sister doing it. She's season ticket holder at Brighton.
We might have ended up getting her on there, Lee. We have to listen back on the audio version.
Queens, mate.
Yeah, they're working midnight like a hamster on a wheel they are to get those audio previews out. Vass, we're going to come straight to you for the preview. Look, Spurs are going to bounce back, of course, on that defeat to Arsenal last week. It's another away clash for Tottenham, this time on the South Coast against Brighton, who are sitting fourth in the Premier League at the moment. They come off the back of a fine 3-3 draw with Liverpool. Vass, simple question. What are you going to go for, Vass, at the weekend?
Oh, score prediction?
Yeah.
Oh, mate, you do this to me every time. I'm going to say 2-1 Spurs.
2-1 Spurs. Okay. It's so early on at the moment to get team news. Obviously, we'll bring that to you later in the week as soon as we know a little bit more. We've got an opposition preview to bring you later on in the week where we'll be speaking live to a Brighton podcaster who will give you his thoughts about Brighton and where we stand and the team news. Lee, let's come to you next. I mean, I know there's a lot of disruption for the game in terms of rail strikes. We understand that, obviously, of course, their previous game, which was affected by rail before, was Crystal Palace. That inevitably got called off. From what we understand, the game is likely to go ahead. Prediction, Lee, ahead of Saturday?
3-1 Tottenham.
3-1 Spurs. Okay, lovely. And Cracks, it's quite a big night actually Saturday night. We're doing the show live on Saturday night. Macca's back with me for that one. Obviously, we've got Eubank Ben coming straight after that. So it's quite a big night for everyone on a Saturday night. You've got Last Word on Spurs and you've got the boxing. So it's quite a nice Saturday night, I reckon, to come. Get a Domino's in or Papa John's. I mean, we're going to go for Cracks at the weekend. I don't know where that came from.
Which pizza? Which pizza am I going to go for out of them two?
What pizza top are you going for?
Pepperoni, spicy.
Yeah.
Meat pizza.
What pizza top are you going for? What's your prediction?
I'm vegetarian feast. I am anyway. Prediction wise, tough one, Rick. I've got a feeling that Kane's picked a knock up tonight. He looked like once he got that wallop, he was running very, very gingerly on it. You could see him look like limp running. So there's a chance that he could be out. Yeah, more product placement as Fiona says there.
I must say we haven't got a pizza sponsor lineup at the moment, but if you're interested,
not yet.
Yeah,
feel free to send inquiries through to the boys.
We're working on it, yeah. So it's a tough one. Emerson's out, so let's see what he's going to do there. I've got a feeling we won't see Kane Saturday, so it's hard to give a prediction with whatever sort of team he's going to play. I've got a feeling he's going to change, Rick, Saturday. I think we're going to have a bit of a system formation change. I don't know why.
He's going to play Basuma, and he's surely Crackers. He's going to play Basuma against his old club. Surely that is going to happen.
You think so, but I don't think.
He even put Spence on against Forest for like 2.5 minutes. So I'm
can I ask on that basis then very quickly, Cracks? Firstly, prediction, Cracks. What are you going to go for?
Oh wow, a Spurs win. Now that's about as much as I can give you. We'll win it, but I can't tell you what it looks like. But I fancy us to win it.
Last question to all of you, Cracks. Will we see Basuma and Spence come in at the weekend?
No.
One of those two?
No.
Really?
No,
not one
he
of
won't
those.
play Spence. He'll put Perisic over there. He won't play Spence because he's been questioned on it in a press conference. So Conte's a doubler down, and because he's been questioned about these new players coming in, I don't think he likes to be questioned with his authority. So I think he will just go, right, I ain't playing them. Simple as that. Because otherwise people will go, oh, yeah, we questioned him on it, and now he's playing them. So you won't see him Saturday.
I'll come over to Lee
on it.
Okay, no, that's great. Thanks for that, Cracks. We're going to come over to Lee and Vass, and we're going to close it. Vass, for you, what do you think? Spence, Basuma, any chances of both of them, or no?
No? I think right back will be Doherty. I don't want to see Perisic on the right. It didn't work at the beginning of the Leicester game. So I'd rather see Doherty there. And in fact, I'd rather see Sessegnon on the left side of wing back.
It's interesting you said that, Vass.
If Crackers is right and Kane isn't going to play Saturday because he's got a knock, then I might expect to see 3-5-2 and Basuma in.
What is interesting, Vass, obviously, bearing in mind you put it in Doherty there, given the fact that he only 24 hours ago, or now 48 hours ago for the watching audience listening to this right now, is that he said, if I play Doherty, I don't want to lose. I'd be crazy. So, I mean, that's really interesting how, like I say, he frames that one. Doc, here's your
He's going to have no choice now, is he?
Yeah. You know what's coming. You know what?
Did he? He meant it. The fact he's not at his best, basically.
Brutally clipped out of context, I must say, by a lot of the media outlets. It was brutally clipped, I must say.
I think that's what he meant.
Yeah,
I agree with Crackers 100% on Spence and Vass on Spence. I don't think we're going to see him, which is a shame. But I do think we're going to see Basuma, especially again based on what Vass you said. I agree. If you're right and Kane's not playing, I think we goes with Rishi and Rishi. I thought it was Rishi. Rishi Sunak playing up front. Happy days.
Got Rishi Sunak up front. I look forward to that.
I know we need to go. I know we need to go more on the front foot, but God, that's taking things to the extreme, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, it definitely is. No, so if Kane is out, then I think he might play 2, and if he plays a 2, then it'd be a 3-5-2. He ain't got any other options. If Kane's out, Becky's out, and Lucas Moore's out, he's definitely not going to start Brian Hill. He's just not going to do that. So
based on Lee, you're
I'm
going
going
forward.
I'm going Basuma 3-5-2, and I'm going to go for a 3-1 win. Tottenham Hotspur. Come on, you Spurs.
I mean, based on that front line of the government, Lee, we won't be scoring all season at this rate, given their performance over the last 12 months.
Holding midfielder.
We'll be dropping down the league at a frantic pace if that's the case. But Lee, mate, lovely to have you back on, Lee, for your first Champions League game of 4 years. Lee, you enjoyed it?
Oh, mate, I've absolutely loved it. Loved the abuse on the moaning on Twitter and social media, and it's such doom and gloom. Look, the fact of the matter is, a point away from home in any Champions League match is a good point. So let's take it. We move on. Better performances, and we're onwards and upwards.
Yeah, I have to apologise to Vass. I've been every time I've messaged Vass to come back on the show, I said, Vass, I promise you, it will only be an hour. I promise you, it'll be done before midnight. Here we are, 1:15.
Please,
I'll never believe him. No, but
never, mate.
I think for these late night sessions, you can cut out the individual player rundowns. I don't think you need to do those.
Well, based on tonight, Vass, I think you're spot on. We don't need it on a night like this. I promise you, Vass, any more 0-0s, we don't do player ratings. That's for sure. Vass, thank you so much as always, mate. We're looking forward to having you back on with us soon. Vass, Dr. Tottenham, when are you guys back? You back Sunday?
Yeah, we should be recording this weekend. I don't know whether it'll be Saturday or Sunday, but we're out there. And if you catch us on YouTube, then fantastic. Yeah. But if not, the audio pod is wherever you find your pods. Give us a listen.
Yeah, please go and check out Dr. Tottenham podcast. One of the very first pods to drop over weekend. Great views over there. Some wonderful,
Raj said. Put Raj's comment up.
Vass was clean shaven when we started. He is turned into Nuno. He is morphing. He's morphing into Nuno. We'll be scratching a beard in 5 minutes. Vass, always a pleasure, mate. Thank you so much for your time.
We're thanks for having me on with
us, mate.
Yeah,
always a pleasure. Worries. Cracks, where do we go on the back of that kind of comment? Oh, what a week.
Well,
what a week.
You already had a beard, and I've actually got one since as well, like this show started. So we're now with 4 bearded moaners, isn't we?
Oh my God. I'm blaming Cracks for this tonight. Cracks actually predicted a 0-0, so it's all your fault, Cracks.
Me?
You predicted a 0-0, but it's all your fault.
Sorry about that. Thank God it weren't like a 5-4 game then, really, when it was no more content.
Can you imagine? I'd have to.
We might as well just stayed on air till Brighton.
For the sake of our watching audience, there's still about 500 people watching this live. Thank you so much.
Go to bed, the lot of you.
No, I was going to say, for the sake of our marriages, mate, we need to nap off.
We do need to go. And I think as Jordan says there, Brian Hill's now age 7 as well, so we have to let everybody go. Listen, Derek Smith, thank you so much for all the support, guys, from the wonderful Lee McQueen, from the superb Vass Koni, from the ever great Mr. Cracknell. Guys, as always, please keep safe, keep well. We're back with you live on Saturday night. As always, keep safe and come on, you Spurs.